Hello and welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. My name is Marianne Hauser and I'm the Master Coach and owner at Serendipity Action Coach of Central North Carolina. Today, we are so lucky we have Alan Shelton of Mixer from downtown Winston here as my guest. And we're going to be talking about his business, his journey to business ownership, some of his challenges and best practices. We want to share a real sneak peek into what it's like to run a community makerspace. So if this is your first time on the channel, do all those things that you know you're supposed to do. Hit like, hit subscribe. Make sure that if you've got questions for Alan, you put them in the comments because we'll make sure he gets them. And just sit back and enjoy Alan's story of business ownership. So Alan, welcome and thank you for being here today.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. So please give us a brief overview of your background and tell us a little bit about your business, how you got started, and what was your inspiration?
Yeah, well, first thing is I just want to point out that Mixer is a community makerspace. It's a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So I'm not the owner. The community owns Mixer. When I die, it stays. It keeps running. There's a board of directors. We have, a lot of people in the community that make this place work. But I do own the responsibility that comes with making sure that we are, set on good footing, and that I'm doing my part to find the right people. And that has been my role up to this point. So
Awesome.
my back,
Thanks for that clarification. I really didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, my background is I've always been a maker, a person who fixes things, who designs things, builds things. And so whether it was in my profession or when I would get off work, I would say 90% of my life when I'm awake, I am in the process of creating something or imagining something that could be created. So a place like this is vital to my ability to live my life. And it did not exist here in Winston-Salem. So in 2014, I just went out through the community. I would go to every meeting I could get into, talking to people. Some of those were public meetings. Some of them were meetings maybe I wasn't really supposed to be at, but I just went anyway.
I love that.
but I would first start out by asking people, if a place like this existed, and I had different ways of describing it depending on who I was talking to. What would you do there? So really first just started to see, what are the needs of the community? And sometimes the need is not felt because you don't have any opportunity. So when
favor, Alan, for the people who aren't from Winston who are going to see this, tell us a little bit about what really does happen at Mixer so they understand before we get into the rest of the questions. What is Mixer?
Yeah, so it is a community makerspace. And our makerspace works like the YMCA in that we sell memberships so people can come here and use our facilities. We also have classes so that people who are not quite sure what they would make in a makerspace, they could just sign up for a class to make something in sewing or in the metal shop or in the wood shop or 3D printing. We'll be doing metal casting for the next month and a lot of ways to create art with fire. And we have a lot of those classes available. And we also have a youth education program that we built, which was only summertime, but we just hired someone to be the program director so that we can run youth education year round. So there'll be after school things and special activities for kids so that they can come here and get the extra attention they need to be successful in making things.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, it's been pretty important to us to build that program because we realized early on that there was no people under the age of 16 here. And I think it had a lot to do with they didn't know what to do in a makerspace. The ones that did know what to do here were few and far between, and they would come in and they would do their project, but then they had school. They had other responsibilities. So they would be here for a little while, do their project, then they'd be gone off, getting ready for college and things like that. But within our facility, there is traditional craft resources like a 2,500 square foot woodworking studio. It's about the size of a large 3-car garage. There is a nice metal shop with welding equipment, milling machines, tools for doing blacksmithing, things like that. And we also have more modern technology like CNC machines that will cut out materials for you. We have 3D printers. We have a computer lab where I'm sitting right now, which supports our film academy. So we have resources here so you can edit video professionally. And we actually are teaching, right now we're only teaching that to youth, but we'll be opening that up to adults in the next year or so. So there's a lot of things people can do here. We just provide the place for you to do it. So if you have an apartment, you don't have a workshop in the backyard. You don't have a backyard, right? So we are the workshop for anyone that just needs a place to work.
But my husband has a little wood shop in our backyard, and he's got, lathes and presses, and I don't even know all the names of the tools, but there are often times when even his backyard doesn't meet what he needs to do. So I keep trying to tell him that he's got to go down and figure out how to utilize that, because I actually think the community aspect of it would be really great for him.
Yeah, well, that is what I discovered originally. That was what a lot of people were really seeking. A way to socialize around an interest that it's hard to socialize around. If you're a creator, you often traditionally do that alone. And when you're trying to solve a puzzle, which I see it every day, most of what our members are doing is solving some type of problem to figure out how to create the thing that they're making. When you're there all by yourself, you can't even bounce the ideas off of other people. We find oftentimes that just talking about the problem that someone's trying to solve leads them to a solution. The other person may not give much more than a nod or like I hear you kind of statement, but just doing it, thinking it through while having conversations with someone.
Right.
Helps
Thinking out loud is so important.
Yeah, makes a big difference. Yeah.
So then tell us a little bit about your role that you play at Mixer.
Well, I'm the operations director here. I'm also the founder. So there was a time when I was the only employee at Mixer. And now we have 5 employees, 4 of them full-time. One of them primarily is here for our youth education program in the summertime, and she teaches sewing. And she retired years ago, but she came here as just to see the place, then became a volunteer. And then one day she came in and told me, "You need to hire me." And she told me why. And I said, "You know what? You're right. I need to hire you." And so she helps with our summer youth education programs. That's what she's been doing. But she is so important to have here because of her knowledge and ability to problem solve and help us get through when we have a tight situation. Because even though we have more staff than we've ever had, we do more than we've ever done. So we're still stretched pretty thin sometimes, especially this month. This month is our Arts on Fire celebration, where from August 10th until September 14th, we'll have classes on how to create art using fire. That includes metal casting, welding, plasma cutting, even using our laser cutter, which actually burns materials to cut them into shapes. It's amazing the things you can do with a laser cutter. Even some glass blowing type classes. All of that is leading up to our finale on Sunday, September 15th, which will happen here at Mixer, simultaneous with the Food Truck Festival on 9th Street, which is the street right behind us. So on that day, there'll be a few thousand people here in the neighborhood. There'll be, enjoying the food trucks, but they'll also be enjoying the art vendors and our resident artists who will be showing their work, demonstrating techniques that they do. There'll even be classes. And on that day, it'll be your last chance to create a mold to have your art created in cast iron. That evening, starting around 4 o'clock, we're going to start the iron casting process, which there'll be artists from all over North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and Tennessee converging here to fire up the furnace. And it's a lot of manual labor. It takes a lot of people to run the furnace, and we'll be pouring iron here that day until the sun goes down.
Wow. Well, I'm getting it on my calendar.
It's pretty interesting to watch. We've got a lot of videos on YouTube.
I think I have seen some of it in some past events that you've held, and I never really understood what was going on. So this is pretty interesting.
Yeah. So there's quite a few artists in our region that work in metal casting, but when you're casting in iron, you really can't do it by yourself. It's heavy, it's labor intensive, but the community of iron casters consists of people that have been doing it for 50 years. And there's a lot of college students there and every age in between. And the thing that I love the most about it is somebody can come there with zero knowledge of what's happening to do something that seems very dangerous. And there is a certain level of danger, but there's so much mentoring going on there, passing on the traditions from centuries old technology. And it's a lot of fun to do. It's a lot of hard work. But if you look at the faces of all the artists who are there doing all that hard work, they love it. And that's just my kind of environment.
Wow. So then you're not really teaching the classes or running the classes. You're just providing the programming and the curriculum for what's happening within the organization. I still don't really have a clear understanding of your role.
I teach some classes on occasion. Usually they're in metal or sometimes woodworking classes. But I make sure all the tools are working, make sure everything in the facility is working. I do a lot to train all of our members on how to use tools safely. My job is primarily making sure that when any work is being done in the building or needs to be done in the building, that it's being done safely, that all the equipment is working the way it's supposed to keep everyone safe, and that people can accomplish the task they set out to accomplish because our resources are intact.
Awesome. Yeah, because I think I would be a little intimidated looking at a CNC machine or a 3D printer. I would need some training. So I know we touched on it, people in apartment buildings and people who tend to be crafters, but can you give us a little bit more depth into who your business primarily serves?
Okay. So I've had a lot of practice answering this question, and it depends on who's asking the question and what their point of view is as to how well they accept my answer. But our target audience is anyone who needs a place to make things and the resources to make those things. And the reason that our makerspace is called Mixer is because one of the very first things that we realized in the beginning was, of all the people that were showing up at our events to talk about what it would be like if this place someday existed, there was not a solid demographic by age, by education level, by career. We had people of all ages from very different backgrounds. It was just so much variety that even though we had all these very unique people that seemed quite different from each other, they had one thing in common. They liked the idea of having, one, not to buy all of the expensive equipment that they needed to build the things that they wanted to build, but two, being able to spend time with other people who make things. Mm-hmm. So the word mixer just came about because we didn't want the name to have anything to do with making things, because some people make things with computers and some people make things with hammers. And if you have a hammer in the logo, then all the computer people think I don't belong there. And if you have computer circuits in the logo, all the people
Right.
think because I work with hammers, it's not for me. So the name, even though it takes some explaining from time to time, I feel like it's been totally worth it, because when people join the mixer community, it doesn't take them long to figure out why it's called mixer and why it's
You know, I love that because, we teach business owners, business skills and what have you. And one of the things I'm always sharing with my clientele and when I do some public speaking is there's two things that really drive people's happiness. And it is the pursuit of a goal and a community that they can feel valued in. And so when I'm teaching business owners, I explain to them that it's really important for your team to have a goal and for you to have a community at work where people feel like they're valued and they belong. But that's exactly not in the workplace, but that's exactly what Mixer does. It helps people with the pursuit of the goal, whatever that project completion is, and you've got community. So I imagine it's a pretty happy place.
yes, it is. Yeah.
So if there was one thing you wish more people knew about your business, what would it be?
Um, I wish more people knew that we want them to be here. Maker spaces are still unknown to a lot of people. Now, in 2014, when I first started going out into the community, telling people about the idea of a maker space, I would say 99% of the people had never heard of a maker space. Now it's much less, that I run into someone who's never heard of a maker space. But there are people who are never going to be members here. And we're okay with that. If it's not their thing, they shouldn't feel obligated to be here. And we don't want them to feel guilty because they're not supporting us. However, I do find something that seems to be pretty universal among most people. When they finish creating something themselves by their own hands, that sense of accomplishment, they almost always leave with a smile on their face. They're always glad they took the time to do it. And sometimes it becomes a new hobby, sometimes it becomes a new way to earn money, because quite a few of our members come here with a certain skill set and they talk with other members, they see some piece of equipment that they don't understand, and they begin to understand how to use that piece of equipment. And for a few of our members, it's opened up the opportunity for them to create a brand new business. Sometimes it's for some of our members, it's been life-changing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you want more people to know that you exist and to come in and take advantage. How are you marketing? I always like to hear how successful businesses are engaging with their target. So how many different marketing strategies do you use, and what has brought you the most membership?
Well, in our surveys, when people sign up, word of mouth is the most popular way people say that they heard about our classes. We do a lot of social media posts each week. We've always done a lot of social media posts. We just recently, in the last 6 months, started advertising in Forsyth Family magazine, which is local to our area. And we had been advertising just our summer camps there once a year. And then this year we committed to advertising every month in Forsyth Family. We think that if people keep seeing our ad every month, then it might become something that they are more familiar with, and it doesn't seem like such a big deal for them to go to our website, hop in the car and drive over, come to one of our events. So trying to show up in front of people every month is something we're trying right now. And we are advertising our Arts on Fire activities in Our State magazine in this month, in the August edition. And that is made possible by a grant from Visit Winston-Salem, administered by the local Arts Council. And so they offset quite a bit of the cost so that we could afford to advertise in Our State, because that particular event, it has brought people from several hundred miles away. It is pretty exciting to watch. It doesn't happen every day, just anywhere, but it is also a way for us to begin to show that it's possible to bring people from out of town to come to an event where they can participate or they can watch and see art being created or be a part of creating that art. And what we want to do is be one place in Winston-Salem that is among many arts organizations in Winston-Salem that coordinates events so that someday we can have an arts festival in our city that brings people from all over the country, maybe someday even all over the world, who converge here to pay artists money, to see them do their work, to be right there with those artists and be a part of the creation of that art. And I know it's possible. It's kind of on the back burner, but I've been talking about it for a few years, and that's how Mixer got started. I started talking about it, and then when enough people bought into the idea, it happened. So
Yep.
it's a goal for me to someday be playing my role in this city having a large arts festival that brings in a lot of people from out of town who stay in our hotels, eat in our restaurants, and support our artists.
Right, just like Bookmarks did with their book
Yeah,
festival that they have. They've got a lot of people that come from out of town, and I can see this being as popular, if not more popular, because I think it's got a broader interest, right? There's so
yeah.
many tracks that people could be interested in and they'd be attracted. You know, you've actually answered my next question is where do you see the business in the next 3 to 5 years? And I guess I was thinking maybe expanding outside of Winston, but you just want to focus on Winston and make it be the hub for arts and innovation, right?
Yeah. Well, yes. The thing about makerspaces is they are hyper local because you have to physically be there. Now, I do know people who drive a few hours to come here, and I have driven a couple hours to go to a makerspace, but I went to that makerspace not to join the community, but to use a specific resource there. And what's most important to us is the relationships and the community that we build here. And expanding into other markets does not build community. It might actually disrupt another community from being able to build their own community. So what we want to do is focus on serving the Winston-Salem area. There is enough people in the area to support a makerspace. We could expand. We have, I wouldn't say we have a plan, but we have some ideas written down where that if we found the right building in the right area, we could expand our operations and have more revenue streams and be able to offer more to the public. But as we grow, we have to be aware that there's a lag from the time you start something till the time enough money comes in to pay for it. So in the nonprofit business, we had to raise $250,000 to get started. Now we'll burn through $250,000 in a few months. Our budget has expanded, but if the budget went from, $250,000 a year to $1 million a year in 1 year, we would have went out of business a long time ago. So
Right.
we have to have sustainable growth.
Right.
Yeah.
Planned,
Yeah.
strategic growth. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So now that you've got 5 employees, how would you describe your leadership style in the business?
I try to have other people in leadership roles as much as possible. I'm kind of old and grumpy, sore a lot of times because I work too much. But also, we were so lucky when Elaine Lamson, who is now our executive director, found us. The day she walked in the door for her job interview back in 2019, when she walked in the door, my original reaction was, oh, she's here to tell us that we're going to hire her. and and we did. And it was one of the best hires. It was one of the best decisions that I ever made. But it was a no-brainer. She loved the concept of this place. And in the interview, a lot of what the first thing I do in the interview, one of the first things is try to say the things that might discourage someone from wanting to be employed here. Like, we're not going to be able to pay you a lot. I don't care. It's going to be It's going to be, sometimes you're going to be working some odd hours. I don't care, you know, so all of those things that could be deal breakers for people, they didn't matter. She said, this is where I want to be. This is my kind of place. And now she's our executive director. And she loves being out in the community, being out in front of people. She is a social butterfly. She's able to keep relationships fresh, you know, get in front of people. She remembers to text them and things like that when something's happened. And I'm sort of in my own little world, you know, thinking about inventing things, or, oh, I got to remember to go pick up coal for our iron pour next week. Oh God, I got to rent a truck. Oh man, I got to make sure the trailers. Oh God, I got so much work to do. So that's the way my mind works. And so all these people around me, but I don't always see them because I'm kind of in my own world sometimes. But Elaine, she is very tuned in to the community. She is an artist herself, but she has developed things like our artist development series to help local artists learn how to be profitable as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
That's something artists often struggle with. She is at the Artist Thrive Conference right now, which is over at the Benton Convention Center. She's one of the leaders of that conference, one of the organizers. So we won't see her much this week. But she is making it possible for us to get people that we would not have been able to reach without her getting out in the community.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
does most of your revenue come from grants and, you know, maybe even corporate donations, or does it come from membership?
I would have to look and see what the breakdown is for this year. In the past, 56%, 56 to 60% of our income was earned revenue from membership, classes. Well, I guess, yeah, membership and classes, special events. And then the rest was made up from individual donations and corporate donations and grant funding. Because our education program has grown so much in the last year, and because Elaine has created all these new programs, and many of them are grant funded at this time, I'm not 100% sure what the breakdown is, but I would say, just guessing right now, that about 50% of our revenue is earned income, and all the rest is from grants, corporate sponsors.
Wow, that's a nice mix
Yeah.
for, you know, because a lot of nonprofits think that everything comes from grant money. And one of the things I often teach them is, no, we've got to figure out how to generate revenue.
Yeah.
Because the services you offer, some people can afford to pay for them, and we want to get them involved.
Yes. Well, you know, when we started our youth education program, we made financial aid a top priority, but we also set a goal of having 50% of our students paying for the classes. And then we would go out and find the students who couldn't afford it, the families who really needed the support. And we spent a lot of time going out in the community, finding those people. And we came pretty close to 50-50 a lot of years. And this year, I think it was 48% of our students received financial aid. But if we don't have those families who can afford it paying into it, it's not going to be sustainable. So we want to offer something that is worth the price, and also find ways for people who can't afford that price to have an entryway in. So easy entry points is something we've always focused on.
That's great. You've talked about all of the success and the growth at Mixer, which is amazing. But if we think back on your journey so far, what was the most memorable roadblock or hurdle that you were challenged with, and how did you overcome it?
Well, there was a time very early on when I was just going out in the community. I had no idea how to start a business or a nonprofit. Like, I had no idea how to start a business of this size. I knew how to be self-employed, but I didn't know how to start a business.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone said, "Hey, I'm interested," I said, "Come on, well, let's do this thing." And then I put together a board of directors, and they didn't have to work hard. All they had to do was say, "Yeah." And then they were on the board of directors. And then that came to bite me in the butt at some point, because when I started realizing that, oh, they think we've formed the organization, but all we have formed is a corporation that has no cash flow, no customers. We have not formed any of this yet. And then I could see I was losing them. They were just that way. We couldn't make any forward progress. And finally, I just said, we have got to make forward progress here. And I can't even remember what the next step was. But they all walked away.
Probably a
And
good.
I've never told anybody that in public before. Hurt my feelings. It was scary. I thought, man, the last few years of my life might be wasted, but I was too hard-headed to quit. I just kept trying. And eventually I met Milton Rhodes, fellow that I suspect you probably heard of if you live in Salem. And I sat down with him and I told him, about my idea. And I just remember him actually closing his eyes. And I think what he was doing is he just wanted to listen to me and not be distracted. And when I got finished telling him what I was doing, he said, I like that. That's a lot like what we did at Sawtooth in the 70s. And he said, I'm going to work on, see if I can find some people for you. And we had meetings for, 6 to 8 months. And at the meetings, we would just talk. And I thought, man, we're not solving anything here. We're not doing anything. We're just talking about the same stuff every month. But what I really didn't realize until later is Milton was getting people to show up and show that they were committed enough to at least being on the conversation. And then between those meetings, he's talking with them about what it's going to take and talking with me about what it's going to take. But he's talking to us as individuals so that he can get me to focus on things that I need to focus on and get other people to focus on things that they need to focus on. And we put together a board of directors, and one of those board members was able to raise the startup funding that we needed at dinner parties that I wasn't invited to, was never going to be invited to. And for him, it was a few conversations and we had this big batch of money. I could never have done that.
Right. It's the right people, right? Getting the right people in the room.
Yeah, it really is. And so that was the turning point when we went from being a group of people talking about how cool it would be to have a makerspace to a group of people who had a makerspace.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, I would like to do we're going to call these rapid fire questions. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions right in a row, short, sweet answers that are going to be memorable and helpful for other people who might be trying to do something similar to what you've done and figure out how to get a board together. And right. So the audience is going to just want to hear quick answers. And these are probably going to be snippets actually for your social media. So what is the key to success for you?
Finding the right people and giving them the opportunity and the power to do the things that need to be done to keep everything going.
Power, I love it.
Yeah.
What is your one piece of advice for other business owners who might be trying to found a nonprofit or do what you've done?
If you're trying to found a nonprofit, it is not yours. It belongs to the community. So you have to have the community involved. And you may have to play a role of more of a dictator, I say that with air quotes, from time to time to keep everything moving forward, but it's not yours, it's the community's. You have to remember that.
Very good. What is a book that you are reading now, or maybe you've read recently that you could recommend to someone else?
Well, all the books that I read are about techniques for how to make things. So I don't know that I'd recommend any of them. Making, metal casting, that's
gotcha.
Yeah.
And now if you had a magic wand and you could wave it over your business right now that would immediately improve one area of your business, what would it be?
The ability to increase our staff and pay them well, like immediately. We finally got to the point where we're paying people, some of our people well, most of our people well. Elaine and I don't yet get paid very well. Working on that right now. But just the ability to pay our staff what they're worth, pay them their value. And we were about half of our staff is paid well. And if we can get all of us paid well and then be able to hire more people and pay them well, that would be the thing.
That would be great. And final question, well, you know, before I get to the final question, how do people find out about you? What is your social media handles? Do you have any way that we'll also put it in text along with this video, but how do people find out about Mixer?
One of the easiest ways to find us is just type MIXXER into any browser search engine, and it'll lead you either to our webpage or to a ton of pages about us, which could be our website or Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We have quite a few YouTube videos, and we hope to be adding more in the next year or so. But
I would think you guys could have a huge library of YouTube videos. That would be a great marketing tool for you.
Well, if you look right above my head, you see the word Film Academy.
Mm-hmm.
Starting a film academy for youth with the help of a local professional. He provides all the content and we provide the space for it. And his goal in teaching people how to capture, edit and create, film for the public is how to get paid for it. So it's not, hey, this is the art of film. It is the art of film, but he's going to teach you the art of creating work in film that you can get paid well for.
As a business coach, I love that because everything I do is teaching people how to build a business that is profitable and can actually run without them, right? As the leaders of the organization, yes, you have to be involved setting the direction and directing where the company goes, but you shouldn't be the guy that's doing all the work in the organization. And that's how you get more profitable. So I'm going to say that to you, Alan. If we want to get you and Elaine and some of the other people paid a little bit more, it's how do we get you to step out of working in your business and work on your business? And my final question is, what is bringing you the most inspiration today?
Oh my goodness, the talented people who have been showing up. Since we started the artist development series, we're starting to meet people that they probably would have been here if they had more of a reason to come here. So when you have a way of doing something that means a lot to you, and you've developed a technique in a place, and you have everything that you need to do that, to go to a new place to do that thing that you're already doing doesn't always make sense. But what that doesn't account for is the new opportunities that a place like this could bring the artists. And when they come here and they see other people in the space and they see what people are here creating, sometimes it draws in very talented people that we would not have been able to get here otherwise.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us this afternoon. I can't wait for this to go live and get the feedback that we'll have from our audience. So again, if you've enjoyed listening to this video, make sure that you like and subscribe. If you have any questions for Alan, make sure that you put them in the comment section. We'll make sure that he gets them. And look for our next episode of the Business Spotlight series. Thank you again for attending, and we'll see you on the next show. Take care. Have a great day.